Justice League issue 62, Brian Michael Bendis writing with David Marquez on the art, and obviously the backup as well. Anyway, I'm dipping out. I'm going to Swamp Thing.
Dip out. So
you two have fun. This was like a 6.5 maybe for me. There you go. I'm good.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to compliment the art. That Marquez is fantastic.
I don't think I've had a bad thing to say about the art on this book at all, aside from my dislike of Shazam looking a bit young. That's it. See, that's still true to this issue.
Yeah. Just the and the art and the I'm gonna call it the world that was, where Naomi's from, right? It is, use the idea that it's so bleak, which goes against what I've seen from Marquez, right? Marquez always draws these nice, beautiful images. Just look at when Hippolyta shows up at the Hall of Justice. That's what I think of when I think of Marquez. So to see this other world that's drab and just like a wasteland,
especially all the Aquaman stuff.
Yeah, and how Marquez's art, how he adapted to it. It actually reminded me of Lark's art in Lazarus, which might be the biggest compliment I think I can give on a dystopian.
I'm just looking at it again. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see what you're talking about there.
Right, like everything was kind of dingy and lived in, but there's a social structure, so not the whole world looks like this, just where the average people are living.
It feels like it's a bit harsher on the inks, and they're not quite as neat because he tends to have very clean inks.
Yes.
If he inks himself, I don't know.
Yeah.
Checking the credits.
Let's check. It was just there. Into the book. No, just the artist. It's Placentia's on the colors.
So he does ink himself. So
yeah,
it seems like a conscious choice he's made then to kind of separate that stuff.
Yeah. And so for the meat of the issue, which is, Hippolyta shows up at the Hall of Justice, Flash is there, and Hippolyta's talking about how this world is so different, and not at all what she was expecting, and that she says it all seems like lunacy to me, and yet I've sworn myself to protect it. So just one of these things where I feel like through that dialogue is just showing how she didn't understand Diana's mission, and now that she said this is why Diana's been, gone for so long and whatnot from her mother's perspective, right? And as they're talking about all of this stuff, she asks about the Justice League, and she starts, Flash starts telling her about everybody. He realizes he did the math wrong, which might be the most relatable thing to Barry that I've ever felt, besides being late all the time.
Sure.
Right, just because I hate math. But him basically talking about how he used the multiversal math, and this is not that. This is a completely different frequency, which I do like that's Bendis filling in where exactly Naomi's from.
It reminds me that I don't think I realized this was an alternate Earth until this issue. I just thought she was from another planet.
No, because you didn't read Naomi.
No, and I don't think this book made that clear at all.
No, it's definitely relying on the fact that you're familiar with Naomi,
which I think is a big problem because it feels like it feels like this completely alien world for the most part.
Yes.
And then they're like, "This is Ohio." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, and hence is my problem. I don't know if Pete's listening. Hence my problem with all the Naomi threads always happening.
Definitely not listening.
Yeah, with all the Naomi threads happening in other books. You know what I mean? Whereas it feels like you have to have been following along the whole time to get the full story. Whereas here, you're a prime example. You didn't realize
I
that
was
Naomi's
completely like
from an alternate.
We spent a full issue on this planet last issue, and we obviously teased it at the end of the one before that. And it wasn't until probably halfway through this issue that I was like, "Oh, this is Earth. This is an Earth, not just a planet."
Right.
Because I had no idea, and I think that's a pretty big failing for it to not have got that across. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe I am.
No, but I mean, if you don't know because you're not familiar with Naomi, as you wouldn't be because you don't read the other Bendis books. It's not like you're reading Action when she pops up, and you could have been informed in there. But yeah, this is also, I want to give Bendis credit. This is the most that his Flash has sounded like Barry. And I don't know if it's just the multiversal stuff. I just don't know if it's the more sciencey and less wisecracky.
I think it's noticeable that it's only like that when he's on his own, or with Hippolyta in that case.
Right.
But as soon as he's with the rest of the group, it just
he blends
in with everyone else again.
Yeah. So we get over to Aquaman, who we hadn't seen yet in the last issue, but looks like he had crashed with his family. And the mom wants him out before, because this is some alien dude that just crash landed outside your house, but they're talking about Zumbato, who we were familiar with from the Naomi book, and the whole no zone, and how he doesn't know about it, which I did like this scene just because it shows, Aquaman taking charge, like he realizes he's in dire, these people are scared and whatnot, and he's got to do what he has to do to get out of it. But he tries to hear the oceans, and he can't, and they go, "We're not near the oceans. This is Ohio." So there's Connor's first clue that Naomi's from an alternate.
That was literally it. I went, oh, this is an because up to this point I'm like, okay, sure, there's humans around, but that doesn't really mean anything in these books,
right?
And the fact that we've got clear and obvious aliens also on this planet, like Brutus is his name, the villain. Yeah.
So they're referring to these people as mega powers, or what do they call them?
I think it was mega power that Batman called the last issue.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if these powers have a corrupting influence, because when you get to see Zumbato at the end, he is definitely not human, or as human as we've seen him in Naomi. Where he was kind of a dark figure, like he was here, but definitely more human.
This is definitely a character that JRJR drew at some point, right?
I don't think so.
That is shocking to me with this design.
Zumbato only showed up in Naomi, and that was
It's Campbell, right?
Yeah, Jamal Campbell.
Yeah. I'm shocked with this design here. It looks like that looks like JRJR definitely had a crack at that at some point.
And here's my other criticism here, and this comes to Bendis. As much as I love seeing, Marquez draw double page spreads, I do feel it's a bit of a cheat that we get 1,
5,
2,
6,
3,
6 in a row.
4, 5, 6 on a story that has a backup in it, and it just feels like I get it. These are big moments, but if everything's a big moment, nothing feels like a big moment, right? Like
the only thing I really like about those pages is Marquez making the choice to do the circle panels instead of all the squares. That makes them feel a bit distinct.
Yes. Like pieces of the action and whatnot. But yeah, so we get Brutus, beating up Superman and Black Adam, and we find out that because whatever frequency they're on this planet, it's shorting out our powerhouses, but it's charging other people up like Canary. So it's there's this weird split, and I like that Ollie hits Brutus with arrows, and he pulls it out and goes, "Okay, now I'm annoyed." Like that's just a fun villain moment, But then Canary blasts him with her scream, and it's basically taking the entire Justice League to take this dude down on his home turf. But that's where we find out that Superman has said that the planet's disrupting there. They need more help. So this is where we get Aquaman, which this is another narrative thread that there was an attack, right? That as he was trying to get out of the building with his family.
Yeah, there was an explosion.
Right. Yet the next time we see him, he's showing up in a tank. Those don't.
No, you're right, because the last thing that you see is like there Zumbato's here or Brutus, and then the next thing you see is him showing up in a tank.
Right. So it's not as coherent. But he blasts Brutus with this tank that apparently belongs to the family that had helped him. Brutus starts to absorb it, and we still don't know exactly what Brutus's powers are. It's not very clear.
Don't question it.
No, but he grabs Naomi. Throws Naomi up to the stratosphere, and then she sees just how bad the world is, which is, I think, this would have been a great time for the double page spread. Right? If we weren't spoiled before, this reveal would have been perfect.
That's the problem. This is 6 of 6
Yeah.
Is this double page spread in a row?
Yeah.
I was kind of checked out by it because it was all just action. I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, action, action, action. I
Right.
was at a point where I was barely even paying attention to the pages because they were all just, yes, it's a big action moment. And then it's this one, and it had no impact. I was like, yes, it's just another one. I was like, oh wait, no, this one's not action.
Oh, yeah, no, this had impact for me just with because you turn the page, it goes from action to this desolate. Again, I've said it a bunch, wasteland. You know,
Yeah.
and Adam goes up to get her. She has the realization this is where she's born, and this was almost like if Superman could have visited Krypton, right? Let's say Krypton didn't blow up and was just a world, a dead world.
Yeah.
Her reaction here, like, this is where I was from. It's a good moment. So again, it feels shitty for me to say, like, I feel like Naomi's being wasted throughout the stuff, but at least we're still getting good character moments for her like this. Like she has the full realization of what has happened, why exactly her parents sent her away.
It kind of just comes back to I guess this is a Naomi book, really, not a Justice League book.
For now. We'll see. Yeah. And then they come back down, and Hippolyta has showed up, and she's wasted Brutus, looking completely badass with her spear. Does anyone else challenge us? Step forward so I might have your head. Just great Amazonian dialogue here. And then this is where we get Flash, showing up, basically saying that we got to go, and then Zumbato, who decides who comes and goes, which gels with what we had seen in Naomi. He kind of has like portal powers, but he's definitely a lot more monstrous than I remember him being. He was just kind of like a dude in a robe last time I saw him, so whatever has happened. And then Naomi looking scared. But no, I will say that Marquez's art is the highlight. Despite the 6 in a row double pages, they flow well.
Oh yeah, I noticed.
I was just kind of bored of them by the end.
Yeah, I noticed the double pages being very repetitive. I'll say that.
Yeah. So did you feel like the reveal of Naomi's homeworld at the end kind of lost its impact because it was the 6th of the double page thread, versus if that was one of the first ones or maybe the only one, it'd have had more impact?
Kind of. I mean, it's a weird thing because we know it's her homeworld anyway. The point of the moment is more the emotional impact of her realizing this is my homeland. As she's looking down at it.
Right.
But
I just feel that would have driven home more if that you got to and it was this big double page spread of just the desolation. I think and why.
While it makes sense for Zumbato to also show up, it kind of is awkward in the sense that, now we have 2 of the big generic dudes that are the villains, relate to this world at the same time.
As well, their dialogue sounds damn near identical.
Yeah.
When he just goes, "Oh, hey, Naomi."
It's a very similar dialect.
Yeah.
So, Connor, what you rating the main Justice League story? Pete already said it's 6.5. So.
4.5.
Wow. I'm gonna give it the 6.5 too, but that's mostly on Marquez's art.
I'll be honest.
Story's not doing much for me. I do like seeing his Ollie. So
yeah, I'll just sum up my main thought on it since I'm dipped back in here at the end. Is I kind of feel like the pacing of this arc and them all coming to this world, I was fine with it at first, but this one made it feel kind of weird in that now more characters have shown up, now another villain's shown up, and it feels like it just keeps piling on things as opposed to actually advancing story necessarily in any way that changes anything.
Yeah, no, I get it. And then that moment with Naomi when she sees her homeworld, I told Connor, it feels like if Superman could have visited Krypton. You're right. Like, it does have an emotional resonance. But for me, it's because I'm familiar with the Naomi story, whereas Connor, not so much.
I will say, I did like the page where Canary cried the bad guy into the sun.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny.
The double page spreads look great. Don't get me wrong. It's just there's a lot of them, and it just feels almost like a cheat. That's all.
I think it's because they're all basically splashes as well. It's not like the serious layouts. It's splashes with a handful of inserts here or there.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, so Justice League Dark, right? I'll let Connor take the lead on this one real quick, since I did Justice League.
Oh yeah, so Merlin's off doing his thing. We'll kind of get to that at the end because that book ends it with a couple of pages, but he's doing his evil plan basically, or possibly evil plan.
Yeah.
Yes. Evilness yet to be determined.
Yes.
But we pick up where we left off. We're in the library, and they're searching for the book, but they don't really know how to find it because there's every book that could ever have been written or will ever be written is as a copy in this library. And that's essentially their plan at the end is, right, let's write a bunch of books so it's forced to create a copy, and the librarian will have to come in and catalog them all because there's so many, and then we can question him.
I love that it's Bobo's cheat that figures it out, right? That we're just going to add a random word on a random page, and it's going to create a whole new copy without actually changing anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to change these
like, how dare you write in a library book?
Yeah. I love the Constantine and Jason Blood interaction, just for the fact that, as far as we know, these are completely opposite ends of the spectrum of basically human beings, right? Jason Blood's bound to a demon, but he's this righteous dude. Whereas Constantine is catch and catch can. And we kind of get the vibe here that, Constantine's talking, like
he's becoming a bit of a better person. It's like, hey, I care about these people.
And that there's something about Jason Blood that's off.
He's struck some sort of deal with a heavenly entity to get back here, and it's like, oh, that's a bit shady.
And he says, what's he tell him? That just because it was a heavenly, doesn't mean, in my experience, those above are as awful as those below. So he's like, you just made one bargain for another, but he's got what looks like Zoriel's sword, right? Came from an angel.
Yeah, and we know we're going to be playing with stuff with Zoriel at some point.
Yeah, so he had swapped the deal, and he's there to help, and then that's where we get the stuff with Bobo and Ragman, whose suit is just absorbing these souls that are fighting them.
But we have a Ragman moment before that, which is possibly the most interesting moment of the book, where it gets super meta. So, as we were established, they're in this library. In this library is every book ever. So they're picking up random things, just trying to kind of get an idea of what the cataloging system's like and trying to find things. And Ragman picks up a book that is Justice League Dark 2021, Author's Notes by Ram V, and opens it up. And it's, at some point, one of our characters will learn Zatanna's secret, that the Upside Down Man's power and influence lingers within her, growing each time she uses her powers and pushes herself beyond her limits. It's like, so that's what's going on with her. But then just the way of like handling what is fundamentally quite awkward exposition, but putting it in this really meta context.
Yeah, it's very Morrison. It's from when Pete's been talking about Animal Man for the Patreon stuff. This whole entire thing sounded like stuff from Doom Patrol that I watched, right? Up through the half of the first season, and the Animal Man stuff from Morrison. That's super meta.
Especially the kind of back third of the Animal Man stuff.
Yeah. So, and then here we get that with Zatanna basically pushing her powers to copy all of the books, through her backwards magic, and they start getting rained upon by them all, where this is where the librarian comes out, and he is everything you would expect a character knows the librarian to be.
Yes. As I say, he's very much in the vein of kind of a younger Lucian from Sandman. It's kind of what I said last time. Even design-wise, he's very similar. It's got a lot of similar attitudes. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that this is like an alternate version of him at some point.
Okay.
But they never give him a name here, just the librarian.
Right.
So I thought that was enough that they could...
And I do like that he looks like he's two-dimensional made of book pages.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's a cool, where his motion is leaving like pages behind, so you can see as he was, flailing his hands about.
It's like when he turns his head and there's like the pages fluttering behind the head. Yeah,
you can hear it. The art is that good. Zermanico is so good. But so they end up, talking hey, if you tell us the book that Merlin, we'll stop doing this, which is the ultimate Constantine. just give me what I want and I'll stop doing what I'm doing.
Pretty much tends to work for him as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, right. And he says that sure there's a library and he borrowed it, but we all know Merlin's not bringing it back. So he took something called the Eternity Book and looked up with great interest from the works of cartographer Anaximander, which basically gives them a map to old Atlantis. Like we're talking ancient Atlantis, not Arthur's Atlantis, but the Atlantis that was
like Atlantis to Arthur in the same way that Camelot is to England.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like this mythical kind of.
It's Plato's
real.
Atlantis.
Like Starbucks to America, yeah.
No, because Starbucks are very much real. This is a.
It was a silly joke. It was a silly joke, Matt. Just roll.
Yeah, but I want the logic there, Pete.
He wasn't why you chose Starbucks.
Yeah.
Because it's the most common branded thing at every corner.
But yeah, but the fact here that this came from the library and that Plato's Atlantis was meant to be a warning to society of don't get too big. Nature is still out there. And this is what does they call it? Atlantis, the first bastion for magic on Earth.
Yeah, and that's why Merlin has gone there. And again, he looks evil, looking up at the end with the red eyes. But I do wonder if maybe he's not. I do wonder what the plan is.
If future state can be believed, he creates a magical, I'll say fascist state. From based off of that. So, but who knows? But yeah, at the beginning, I just love the beginning that he pays a guy to take him out to the middle of the ocean, and then pays him in gold doubloons basically, and then jumps off into the ocean and walks away. It's such a great image.
Speaking of the future state issues,
yes,
was it Etrigan or Jason Blood that made the deal that would remember to go back into when they created the alternate timeline?
It had to have been Etrigan because Jason Blood was serving Merlin by himself.
That's a good point because I'm wondering if that would maybe sort of explain Jason's deal, whatever that may be, but yeah, it might still be something to do with that.
So I'm looking back, and we'll talk about when we get to the Swamp Thing, that I'm seeing a thread. You know how Tynan has had a thread through his work at DC? I'm seeing the same kind of thread through Ram V's work. And then if you track it through his Justice League Dark with Swamp Thing, there's a lot of stuff that you can tell that he was interested in and that he's getting to work out through there.
It's really interesting how the first Ram V issue for Justice League Dark was the annual with Swamp Thing, which... Correct if I'm wrong, very heavily featured Floronic Man.
Yeah.
And so, now obviously we're dealing with Woodrow pretty heavily in Swamp Thing.
Right. And so now here I'm feeling the same with his story on that he came into in Justice League Dark when he took over from Tynan, and where we got the the elemental story elements, right? That they tracked down in the caves in Africa.
Yeah, that the thesis of storytelling itself.
Right. And here it seems like he's doing that with magic. And if this is what we're getting with Merlin, and the whole Lords of Order stuff that Tynan had done, that just because they're Lords of Order doesn't necessarily mean they have good intentions. It's almost the same with Merlin. Just because he's light magic, he's up to something.
Yeah.
That I just feel there's threads from not even his Justice League Dark, but just like the whole magic and all this other stuff.
Really appreciate how much he's carrying through this upside down man potential going forward with Zatanna, because he did such a neat job of wrapping that up, and it's like it felt like, okay, Tynan's era has now ended, even though Rambi was right in the back third of that. It felt like, okay, now is a fresh start for Rambi to kind of tell his story going forward. So I appreciate the fact that while he's obviously taking that opportunity and is doing a lot of new stuff, it's not ignoring that stuff either.
No. And to me, that's what comics like this should be. I feel like we really got used to Johns coming in and cleaning the slate and then just telling new stuff while playing with continuity.
We got a lot of writers who did that, didn't they? Where they want to come in, play with the toys, and then just leave it. And the next writer wants to play with the toys how they
Right.
imagined them to be, not how they were actually left.
They create their own sandbox instead of playing in the DC sandbox. And so now I feel Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing this over in Superman. Ram V's doing this currently on his books. And I feel, to me, it creates a better sense of the DC universe. And that's why, we had talked about New 52 and how everything felt compartmentalized. And even through Rebirth, things are kind of compartmentalized. Now it's feeling like it's this interconnected world again. And it is the DC Comics universe. So, and I'll never not love that. That's why I read comics.
Yeah.
So, but so for Justice League Dark, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Even I wish we could alternate them, and that like Justice League Dark gets a big page count, and then we can have Bendis.
I mean, it'll tell exactly the same amount of story in Bendis' 10 pages anyway, so I might as well.
True. But I want more. But so I'm gonna give Justice League Dark an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 8.5 as well.
There you go.